watch and review our scheduled public sessions. We acknowledge your participation, and by attending, you acknowledge that this session is both recorded and aired. The scheduled agenda is available on the information table just outside of our meeting room. Press and public comment will be taken and is limited to 3 minutes per person. If you care to speak, you must sign the sheet on the information table outside. Comments longer than 3 minutes can be submitted in writing for the Commissioner's review. During the meeting, we would ask that you turn all electronic devices off and hold personal conversations outside of the meeting room. We will now stand and be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Commission President Jim Moran.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you please remain standing for a moment of silence for all those veterans that have made the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you very much.
Okay, we just held a brief closed session for personnel. No decisions were made during that closed session. That takes us to the this evening's agenda. The agendas for today's meeting, November 12, 2019, along with the regular and closed session minutes from our October 22nd meeting, was distributed electronically for the Commissioner's review. Are there any additions, corrections? And if not, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you. Okay, scared. That brings us to our first press and public comments section. Thank you for taking the time to express your views to the County Commissioners during this public comment period. Comments are limited to 3 minutes in length. Comments longer than 3 minutes should be submitted in writing. When you come forward, please speak clearly in the standing microphone, state your name, address, and topic of interest. Keeping with the dignity of the office, we ask that all views be expressed in a respectful and civil manner. This commission respects your desire and right to convey your message freely. We ask as a courtesy to the board and our citizens that you respect the commissioner's request and refrain from naming citizens and name calling when offering any critique.
Mayor Margaret?
Good evening.
Evening.
Well, this is the end of these reports because we are finished. We finished completely, with the exception of 2 windows. We're in line for the window man approved by the state to do the 2 basement windows for us. But other than that, we have stabilized the building and completely repaired that collapsed area. And I'm really, really proud of that. I want to say at this particular time that it's been a great joy, and I'm really thankful for having had the opportunity to work with Steve Chanley. And he's really been like a buddy.
Wonderful.
And it's been great for me to sort of share everything going on out at the house and all of the work that we've done. And I'm really thankful, Steve.
So you're saying he takes direction well?
The other thing I want to let you know is that because we're going to be coming shortly to start the whole permit process for the new building that has to be attached and other changes that we're making to the house, one of the things that both the state and we want to be sure of is that there is no problem in terms of graves. And when you read Mary Edwardine's book, she talks about sitting on the 2nd floor and looking down right there on the graveyard where her 3 little babies are buried. And I went out on Facebook and asked for help, and I have a ground penetrating radar that will come, and we will look for the graves and it will be up on Facebook so the whole public can see how it's done and what we find. So that's it. Thank you very much,
Very good. Thank you.
and I'll be back for the next series
Absolutely.
in a couple of months.
Very good.
We can't wait.
Yes. So that was all we had that signed up. Would anybody else like to speak? With that being said, we'll close press and comment. And before we move forward, I guess I'll make a quick announcement on 3 different topics. Don't look so surprised. My favorite topic naturally is the Bay Bridge, and I just want the public to understand a couple things that are going on with the bridge that maybe you noticed, maybe you haven't noticed. Anywhere you see the cones and not Jersey wall, those are areas that are not going to be resurfaced, that were resurfaced in the past and or were precast with the main channel and the secondary channel. So that brought the project down substantially, which some of us didn't know that that was the case, but we now know that that's the case. Where you see those cones on the downward slope on the western side, that area is not going to get milled and or resurfaced. And it looks like the first section is already all paved, so it looks like, you know, over 35% is complete, and kudos to MDTA for picking up the pace and the governor, and that it's moving along. And I, for one, don't see this taking, 2 years. I think that, if the weather just warms up, even if it's only a couple days a week and just warms up, I think this project hopefully will be completed by, the end of spring or mid-spring of next year. So that's a good note. I would also like to address today the governor, I believe, put pen to paper and signed a deal with Virginia on the American Legion Bridge. Public-private partnership, easy pass, commuter lanes, the whole 9 yards, a big project. But I noticed in his press release, they referenced that since 1962, the amount of vehicles going over top of the American Legion Bridge has increased by 390% from 62 till today. Right now, they got 235,000 cars traveling in both directions every day, on average, every day at the American Legion Bridge. So it is a project that needs to get done. I would say, I can't let things go when I see this, but I would say that the Bay Bridge, in 46 years, the traffic has increased 2,600%. So where the American Legion's increased by 390%, our bridge here is 2,600%. So please don't forget us and keep this new crossing, which is a replacement bridge, not another bridge, but a replacement bridge, on track. And then the last thing I want to just briefly touch base on, and I could have waited for roundtable, but since I got a captive audience, I figured I'd go right now, is the Kmart that's closing within 4 weeks, 3 weeks? Yeah, so it's going to be closing. And there is a text amendment that has been proposed that our planning commission is going to discuss this coming Thursday morning. The meeting starts, I believe, at 8:45, so please come out and voice your opinion. That building is what we in the county consider a non-conforming building because it's already 90,000 square feet. We have a big box ban that's on the books for 65,000 square feet and above. That building is 90,000 square feet, and I, for one, don't want to see it sit empty. So we have the possibility, through the developer who's working hard to find another tenant to move in there, of increasing that space, square footage of that one site, and only that one site, because it's the only non-conforming building we have in the county, so that we can attract, hopefully, a target, something that the community needs, because people like my commissioner to my right, he lives down Route 8, and he doesn't want to drive all the way to Annapolis or to Easton. So the amount of jobs, the amount of what it would bring to the community, and once again, not having another empty building, come out and hear what's going on. And again, we're not repealing the big box. We are just trying to amend for this one location so that it doesn't sit empty and it serves the community that's surrounded. So with that being said, take it away.
All right. That brings us to the Department of Public Works. So if you folks can come on down. We have Director of Public Works Alan Quimby, Chief Roads Engineer Shane Moore, Chief of Engineering Lee Edgar. Come on up, gentlemen. Take it away, Alan.
Afternoon, Commissioners.
Afternoon.
If we can begin, I think Lee's first up.
Evening.
Evening. Do we want a motion before we get rolling with this?
You certainly can make a motion if you like, yep. You want to turn to tab 2, item number 1, detention center addition and renovation, design contract award.
Okay, I move to sign the affidavits to award detention center design contract ATI Inc. of Columbia, Maryland, in the amount of $974,836, and to authorize the Director of Public Works to issue the notice of award and execute the contract on behalf of the County Commissioners.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Take it away.
Thank you, Commissioners. Put together in the memorandum in front of you, the basic information regarding this proposal would be to award a contract for design services for the detention center. Tried to put the basic information in there, so I'll open up to any questions you might have.
Okay, well, I'll start. I mean, it's $974,000 and change, and the detention center addition and renovation capital budget, I noticed you have $1,450,000, but you didn't deduct the remaining balance. Is it going to be split evenly between the state grant and the bonds, or is it going to be something that all state grants and we hold off on the bonds? How does that work with Jonathan? That might be a question for you. I don't know. I'm just curious at how that works with the remaining $500,000. Does it just stay in the pool towards fire away?
A little combination of both. So
Okay.
the state is giving or granting a match up to of one half of the design cost up to $678,000.
Okay.
So we will, whatever we spend, the state will match only half of that up to. So the remaining funds will be, the state will only give us half of what we
So
spend.
the $1,450,000 was the max that we would have been able to receive, but since the price of the contract, 50% will be covered by the county and 50% by the state, and there will be no balance.
The maximum we would receive from the state would have been $678,000. However, since they are matching half of the price, presuming that the contract comes in entirely as proposed here, we'd be looking at $480-some thousand is going to be the county's portion of the match.
Okay. And when do you think this design, what's the duration of the contract? Is it 1 year? How long before we?
The intent is that we advertise for construction bids this summer, around the July, August timeframe, such that the design is to be pulled together and complete by midsummer.
Okay.
And then construction ultimately completed by February of 2022. And that's a schedule we've been working with the state as we've looked into their 2-year phase construction funding. They're very much interested in our timing because they will release their funds in concert with other obligations across the state according to schedule. So this is a schedule that they're pleased with as well.
The goal is to get it out of the ground construction-wise before winter sets in next year.
Okay. Very good. But the design contract portion of it, when is that going to be? I mean, you're going to let that here, I imagine, as soon as possible, and then that's a 6-month process to get the drawings all done?
Approximately.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we give the design consultant up until June 30th to take the project through to the completion of the construction documents. We have spoken with them, and they are fully on board with that schedule and able to deliver in that time frame.
Great. Let's do it.
Sure. Yeah. I think that this county would be very wise to create some kind of body that deals in the design with the design, because there's a design function that has to do with Vermont, and there's a design function that has to do with the financing and sort of social aims of what this thing is about. And I think that 2 commissioners ought to be put on with your permission.
I,
Yeah, I just
Okay.
wouldn't want to just let the design run on through without our input into that, and I would put
and have,
Todd,
I understand. Okay,
because there's everything from the layout, what the staffing requirements are, what programs get in, what the assumption is for the number of beds. I mean, everything seems to be a Rubik's Cube, none of which the parts have been decided. And a lot of them are kind of mechanical, but there are some social and decisional ones that I think these committees.
Other costs that the county can manage through the design process.
Absolutely, because it's gonna.
I'd like if Commissioner Wilson wants to be one, I'd like you to consider me to sit on that as the second commissioner.
there you go.
Now we just have to talk about who's going to make up the rest of it.
Well, I mean, Todd, Mom, definitely.
We'll be on there, yep.
Can't do anything without him, so, anyway.
And Lamont.
Oh, of course, that goes without saying. Yeah, we have DPW, Lamont, but,
Well, absolutely, okay, well, we'll leave that up to you guys to
okay.
get your committee together and march forward.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Thank you.
All right, seeing none, okay, we're going to move to sign the affidavits to award the Detention Center Design Contract, ATI Incorporated of Columbia, Maryland, in the amount of $974,836, and to authorize the Director of Public Works to issue the notice of award and execute the contract on behalf of the County Commissioners. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Oh, and before I forget, Commissioner Jack Wilson isn't here tonight. He is sitting on the Kerwin Commission, and he's been in a meeting since 10 o'clock this morning, doing what he hopefully can to, for the taxpayers and for the students of this state. Next. Riverside.
All right, yep, tab 2, item 2, page 5.
I move to award the bid for Riverside Estates remediation project to Master Clean in the amount of $263,293, and also authorize the Director of Public Works to execute the agreement once any necessary submittals are in place.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, so I guess I'm going to ask a question here too. If you turn to, what is our page 7, the detail in the drawing, are all these crawl spaces basically just dirt floors?
Well, there's a vapor barrier, but it's pretty ineffective.
Right. So, I mean, and this is totally going to encapsulate the entire crawl space.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's pretty in-depth. And what's the time frame for this work as far as?
The way the contract documents are set up, the contractor would have access to one building at a time, there's 5 buildings, and give them 3 weeks per building.
And this is in the crawl space area?
First, most of the work is in the crawl space area, but they also have to clean and remediate the living space as well.
And we're still working on what we're going to do with the people living in those units right at this
We are
time?
still working on that, yes.
Okay. Very good. Any,
Yeah, I think, obviously this building is, well, I won't say obviously, it may be that this building is the most deficit of this new undertaking we've now got responsible for. But it's very likely, as we've talked, that there's more to be done. And I would love DPW to be detailed, to run out some kind of a 2 or 3 or 4 year schedule so that we'd be working on this a bit every year. Lay that out ahead so we know as we go into budget what we're doing every year and what that uptake should be. So if you could.
We
try to
anticipate
come up
putting it
with-
in a capital budget for that purpose.
Yeah, just some kind of a general rollout.
Right. Understood.
Myself and Alan and Todd met with representatives of the housing building today to talk to them about, let's identify the projects of what needs to be done and how we can sequence things over the years to
Right.
get some past due maintenance and upgrades done to these buildings.
Super.
okay. And I'm glad to see that it was a local company that was the low bidder and received the award, so that's a plus for the county. Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we are moving to award the bid for the Riverside Estates mold remediation project to Master Clean in the amount of $263,293, and also authorize the Director of Public Works to execute the agreement once any necessary submittals are in place. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Oh, here we go. Now we get to the equipment.
Yeah, and that's all I had for admin, so if you want to convene as the roads board, please.
So moved.
And item 3 is page 8, so that's a lowboy trailer replacement. Shane?
Motion to purchase one Eager Beaver 50 GSL/3 lowboy trailer from Consolidated Trailers of Baltimore, Maryland, in the amount of $54,799.
Second.
Please.
So we have a motion and a second. I guess, again, when it gets to the money portion of it, the capital budget has a line item in it for $67,911.37, and then a rubble surcharge fund for $27,399. Is this, the $67,911, is that something that's remaining in that account? So that's an account strictly used for equipment?
For roads and solid waste, yes.
Yep. And then the rubble surcharge is what we get for just that, for rubble, right? For taking in rubble? I mean,
It's a percentage of rubble revenue that's taken in at Baker's.
At Baker's.
At Baker's,
Right,
10% of their take-in is split, 5% for the county, 5% for Baker's. And that's used for recycling purposes.
And then that'll leave us with $40,000 and $511. $40,000.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right, that's all I had. Anyone else? Good to go. Okay, so the motion is to purchase one Eager Beaver 50 GSL/3 lowboy trailer from Consolidated Trailers of Baltimore, Maryland, in the amount of $54,799. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Okay, that's all we had for roads board. If you want to convene as the sanitary commission, we have 2 items there for the sanitary commission.
So moved. We are in sanitary.
First is a South Kent Island update, so no motion here, but Alan's going to update you on the progress of our Route 8 sewer.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the obvious, to give you an update, we're getting ready to let or go out to bid for the construction of the community mains in Phase 2, which consists of Tower Gardens. I asked Administrator Mon, if we were continuing to follow our schedule, and he said, well, why don't you bring it before the commissioners and give them an update? So we're going to give you an update. So starting with Phase 1, which, as you know, has been under construction for quite some time, and I do have some updated numbers. As of the end of October, we've had 525 out of 774 tanks installed, which is 68%, and we have 189 homes connected, which is 24%. So while work is progressing, the rain that we suffered for about approximately 18 months really hampered the contractor's ability to stay on his schedule. So we're predicting that he's going to be 5 months late, which would bring him to about July of 2021. I think it's a legitimate delay. I mean, we had 2018, which is the wettest year on record, and obviously the type of work that he's involved in, rain can really set him back. It really doesn't have a major impact on the budget. It might have some impact on inspection, whether we have to increase our inspection forces for a period of time because we'll have overlap that we hadn't anticipated. But other than that, Phase 1 is proceeding quite well. If you recall, last October 2018, we assessed the vacant lots. We ended up with 358 vacant lots, which we had anticipated 400. And to date, 38 building permits have been issued. So in all, I think we're quite pleased with the way Phase 1 has progressed.
So so on Phase 1, when was Phase 1 supposed to have been completed?
February 2021.
February of 2021. Okay, so it's going out just a year and 4 months. You're anticipating, June, July okay.
5 minutes more than what
5 months, excuse me.
5 months.
5 months, I'm sorry. And then I noticed here, but it still remains well within the budget.
Mm-hmm.
And the vacant lots that you're referring to, is just 358 just in Phase 1?
Yes.
So that's just in Phase, so they have a sewer line running in front of them now, and they could be built on.
Correct.
If they wanted to, and out of the 358, only 38 are under construction.
Or have been issued building permits.
Or an
correct.
issue, okay, great. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. And that's the bulk of the vacant lots too, obviously.
Right.
Phase 2, which, as I touched on, which is Tower Gardens, is 200 homes. As you recall, Century Engineering got the design for both the step tanks, the site plans for each individual improved property, as well as the community mains. We're pleased with their work, and we are anticipating we're planning to advertise this week on the construction mains bids for the construction of the community mains. This time, we're going, instead of doing both contracts at the same time, we wanted to let the community mains project go first. That way, that when the step contractor comes in, he can go ahead and do a yard completely, as opposed to dropping a tank, moving on, dropping a tank, and then having to double back 2 or 3 times. We think it'll make it more efficient, and both for the contractor and for the homeowners. So we're going to stagger the contracts probably 4 to 6 months with community mains going first.
In the community mains, is that all directional boring? Is it?
Yes.
As much as humanly possible?
As much as it can be. I mean, obviously you have to make connections, you have to install division valves and everything. So there is some excavation, but as opposed to the phase 1 where we left it up to the contractor, this contract is going to be directional drill to the maximum extent possible. It's just a much nicer job, much better for the community, and a lot less arguments with the contractor.
Very good.
So the community mains bid is scheduled to be on the street this week, and the bid due date of January 7th. And the step bid, right now, I'm guessing it'll be March or April before we let that construction contract out. Phase 3 is Kentmore and Queen Anne Colony. I am putting together the design bids for that. Probably early next year, we'll let the design bids, put them on the street and get bids for that so that they can start on that construction. We're only probably allowing 18 months or so for phase 2 because there's only 200 homes compared to where we are now, it's over 700, so it's a huge difference in effort. And as in phase 2, we're going to require them, in this case, to do Kentmore with the community mains first. That way the step contractor can go there and hit that community while the community mains contractor is in Queen Anne Colony. Phase 4 is Chesapeake Estates, Sunny Isle, Kent, Bass Neck, and Mattapique Estates, which is about 210 homes. We don't have any efforts on this phase anticipated until late 2022. And the last one is a phase that doesn't exist. Phase 5, which would be Kent Point Farms, if the county commissioners ever wanted to do Kent Point Farms. The point of that was to make sure we didn't paint ourselves into a corner hydraulically, to make sure the pipes we put in Kent Point Road and Route 8 could handle it if we were ever going to serve it in the future. So it really doesn't exist as a phase. We just, like I said, we just didn't want to put pipe in the ground and come out 10 or 15 years later and have to rip it up. So we just modeled it hydraulically. That's as far as we've gone with a phase 5, if there ever is a phase 5.
Okay. And that's 90 existing homes. That's no infill on that.
That might be 10 lots.
Okay. All righty. Any questions about the,
It's come a long way.
yeah, no, we're moving along. That first phase is big, so very good. And we haven't gotten, I for one haven't received any calls with complaints, so, you know, I understand that a lot of,
We're fortunate we have a very conscientious site step contractor.
right. That's what I mean. So kudos to that and the good work everybody's doing down there with communication, because I get the updates every Friday, and it's nice to see that how many are getting completed and the, you know, the post meetings you have and answering all the citizens' requests. So very good.
We don't have a 100% satisfaction rate, but we're happy with what we got.
Exactly. Well, I'll take it. Thank
Better
you.
than we anticipated, put it that way.
All right. Enclave?
Yep. Item 5 on page 16, can I get a motion? This is a public works agreement for the Enclave subdivision.
I move to execute the public works agreement with the Enclave Land Group LLC to allow for the construction of 14 dwellings.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we need any discussion on this? Why don't we get just a quick, what this is and where it is, and just a little rundown for the
This is
public.
one of the 4 recapture projects, if you recall, we went through starting almost a year ago, in February, I believe it was. But it's only a 14 lot, or I think they're duplexes, 7 duplexes, to be built on the lands of the Prospect Bay West Golf Course area. If you go down Prospect Bay Drive, when you go past the woods that Mr. Barry used to own, you hit the split rail fence, it's pretty much right there.
Okay.
It'll have access off of Prospect Bay Drive, not out of the community itself. But I presume it's going to be part of the community as far as HOA fees. I really don't know that.
Very good. Okay. And this is a project that's actually been sitting there in limbo for,
Long time.
yeah, a very long time. So that's finally moving forward. Okay, so seeing no other questions, we're moving to execute the public works agreement with the Enclave Land Group LLC to allow for the construction of 14 dwellings. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes the Department of Public Works. Any more questions for these gentlemen while they're here?
No, we're good to go.
I want to thank the department for the Route 8 sewer project. As commissioners mentioned, very few complaints. In fact, folks are delighted to be hooked up to the sewer system, and with all the wet weather, they're very pleased with that going forward. So it's been great. Good job.
And it's actually flowing, right?
It's going somewhere.
I mean, is it coming out at the plant yet?
It's going somewhere.
It is?
It's going somewhere.
That's not so reassuring.
That's comforting.
We were on such a roll, Alan. You just pull us back down into it. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Does he have a 90-day review or? Good job, Alan.
Welcome
Thank you all, Al.
to the Bay.
All right, Commissioners, if you want to turn to tab 3 for our action items this evening. Tab number 3, we have 15 items here for your consideration tonight. The first item is Community Partnerships Agreement, CPA FY 2020. Can I get a motion on that? I believe Mike Clark is here tonight if you have any questions.
I move that President Moran sign the attached fiscal year 2020 Community Partnership Agreement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And Mike's coming up here to tell us briefly what this is all about.
It's the block grant. It's the equivalent of block grant that provides most of the operating funds for the local management board. It's called a community partnership agreement, but it's similar to a block grant that we get every year. It's the local management board does a lot of work to prepare and plan and determine what the priorities are and align it with what the state wants us to do, and take what the state wants us to do and make that the best mix for what fits in the county. So, and this is just a result of that.
And this is something that we apply for and get every year?
Every year.
Does it
Every
ever
year.
grow? Is it?
Well, it's been going the wrong way for the last couple of years.
Growing smaller.
Yes, so we're trying to advocate. The Association of Local Management Boards is trying to get it so we can get some better clout within the legislature to make it grow a little bit more. So.
Very good. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, we're moving that President Moran sign the attached FY 2020 Community Partnership Plan. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, thanks, Mike. All right, item 2 on page 27 is an FY 20 Department of Parks and Recreation's vehicle purchase.
Oh,
It wouldn't be a
my-
meeting without at least one vehicle
Oh,
purchase for the. So Steve, you want to come on up and
Not again.
item 2 and item 3?
This one's a little different.
Okay.
I get a motion on that, please, Commissioners?
Okay.
Nobody wants. Here, I'll do it. I'm gonna follow my own sword. I move to authorize the Department of Parks and Recreation to purchase a 2019 Kubota L3901 HST tractor and loader from Huber Inc., Middletown, Delaware, for $24,650. Funding to come from the Department of Parks and Recreation FY 2020 capital equipment budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Okay.
What's this?
Give us the sales pitch.
Just remind them that we already authorized this budget already.
That's
You're
true.
just spending it now.
That's right.
Absolutely.
We're following through on what we were approved.
Right.
But one of the main things is, as you can tell, it's a 1986 tractor.
Yeah.
It's got over 4,000 hours, and now we're beginning to have constant transmission problems. So in order to continue business, we need to make sure that we've got some up-to-date equipment, and I think it'll be a good piece of equipment for our northern district, so they can offload materials, help move snow with it. One of the pieces that we're going to take from the 1986 tractor is the backhoe, so it's attachable to that as well. So we're still pirating off of an old piece of equipment and still utilizing the best of it that we can.
So you have I'm seeing you got a remaining budget of $124,885.
Yeah. I'm gonna see you in 2 weeks.
Right, but what about I'm just gonna put a plug in for a stump grinder.
We took care of stump grinding. We actually.
I'm sure I can find more for you though.
I'm sure. We actually sat down and took a look at all the stumps that are in the parks. So for about a month, we rented a stump grinder and went through and probably took out over 120 stumps throughout the area. So we are pretty much up to date. There's probably I'd say less than a dozen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty confident in saying that's out there, and that would be from new trees that we had just cut down. So we made a remarkable effort in getting caught up with that and preventing, mower error and just, the ugliness of it, so to speak.
I would say of the park department, sir, that the thing they have been long in deficit of is a bucket truck, because they cannot do trees. Is this not correct?
Right. But what we did is we just recently purchased a 40-foot boom lift.
Oh, okay. Same
which
thing.
is actually more useful than actually a bucket truck would be.
Right.
It's something that we can get back on the trails and take care of, trees that are hanging over the trail. It's not as heavy,
No,
so to speak, and you
got the
can kind of
point,
get
yeah.
through without damaging a lot of equipment as you go through. So we'll be able to use it more so than, the actual bucket truck. We'll have other
Super.
options to do.
Very good. Okay, so, any other discussion? Seeing none, we're moving to authorize the Department of Parks and Recreation to purchase a 2019 Kubota L3901 HST tractor and loader from Huber Inc. in Middletown, Delaware for $24,650. Funding to come from the Department of Parks and Recreation FY 2020 capital equipment budget. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you.
All right, stay right there, Steve. Item 3 on page 33 is a fireworks contract with Zambelli Fireworks Manufacturing Company. On that?
Piece of equipment was 33 years old.
I move
like-
to authorize the Department of Parks and Recreation to contact with Zambelli Fireworks Manufacturing Company in the amount of $20,000 to provide the annual fireworks show on July 1st, 2020, to be held at the Chesapeake Heritage and Visitor Center. I remember riding.
And I'm going to
as a
say
kid.
second on that. And my first question is going to be, what did we pay last year?
Yeah, it used to be 10.
Well, I know that, well, that was a long time ago.
Last year, excuse
I'm
me,
old.
Very much.
last year it was 20.
Right,
I
so-
just wanted to check with Jonathan. We did pay 20 last year for the company that we had.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, from the previous set of commissioners, didn't we have local business sharing the expense at some point?
We did fundraising, yes, we did, yes.
Yes, we did go out
Short
and
answer
get
is yes.
sponsors. Yes, we did.
So can we get some sort of, for that cause, because I was going to say the same thing, can we get some sort of demonstration from Zambelli about
Yes,
what
we can.
$20,000 can buy us? And if we were to raise another $5,000 or $5,000 to $10,000, how much better our show could be?
Okay, so with the 20,000, we get 1,885 shots with rising trail effect. It will be hand shot, and also it will be a 20-minute show. So if we wanted to add extra, we would have a better show. This show is comparable to the show in Rock Hall. This is the exact same show.
1,000 a minute. I'm going to have a good time.
Yeah.
This is the exact same show. I did my, yeah.
Okay, so I mean, I just.
Don't blink.
I'd like to prepare something, maybe we can get some businesses
You can't
to chip in
afford
and, a grand finale or something that, make it go bang. It's all good.
I think they'll definitely be pleased with this organization. Essentially known as really the godfather of fireworks. They've been around for over 100 years. They do,
And to hand light everything?
where they're going to
The hand
hand light
light,
the beginning and the middle of the show, and then the finale will be an electronic.
Okay.
Shot,
Right.
just because there's so many that's going to.
And we're same location, we're not changing location?
Same location.
North side?
Yes,
It's going
sir.
off just like it did for the last
So,
couple of years.
and so what's also interesting, Commissioner Moran, is the fact that we're doing it on July 1st. So obviously, if you don't do it on July 4th, you actually get a better deal. So the further you get away from
Right.
July 4th, you actually get a better deal. So
Do it now then.
I say we just do it. Let's go ahead and do it next week. Let's see what kind of deal. we can-
So at the signing of the contract, we would just need 50% down, and then I would see Jonathan 3 days prior to for the balance.
He'll give you a credit card, it's all good. Okay,
So we put 20 in this. We got 5 or 10 in Centerville, Sudlersville. I mean, this is an expensive holiday. I'm glad we don't celebrate Easter like this.
well, I don't know, I think this holiday's probably gonna be cheaper or less expensive for the county than Christmas Eve. What do you think?
Ooh.
So we can look into that. All right, with that being said, we are voting on to authorize the Department of Parks and Recreation to contract with Zambelli Fireworks Manufacturing Company in the amount of $20,000 to provide the annual fireworks show on July 1st, 2020 to be held at the Chesapeake Heritage and Visitor Center. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Yes.
All right, moving on, item 4 is the paving contract for the golf course, Blue Heron Golf Course. And
I move to authorize Department of Parks and Recreation Blue Heron Golf Course to contract with David A. Bramble to pave a 6-foot cart path, $100,000 from the Department of Parks and Recreation Blue Heron Golf Course Capital Improvement Project number 3090-9402-3011.
Second?
So we have a motion and a second. Okay, so on our desk, and I got a little confused with this.
Okay.
Which one is the one we're paving?
We're painting the back 9, which is...
Which is the old 9?
No,
or
no.
the new 9?
The new 9.
The new 9.
Okay, so which one of these is the back
Which one
nine?
of these?
They're not
So
labeled.
this is
That's the back nine?
This is the front 9. These are the back. This is the back.
This one.
Okay, so we're paving all of that.
Yes.
Excellent, okay. So
Eric would be here.
Right.
He's out with the flu.
That's okay, I mean, that's 50% of the golf course.
Correct.
And then the front 9, I read his email, so he said that would require grading and some other things. This one's pretty much ready to go to be paved.
Yeah, you'd almost have to redesign the whole original 9, so to speak.
Okay.
But this one is ready to go. It already has basically a base.
Now,
there.
what, is Bramble gonna be doing this now or in the spring?
He
or-
is looking to do it in December,
Oof.
provided the
permitting.
temperatures are at that optimal timeframe.
Okay.
If not, I'm sure we'll be able to be first in the spring.
Okay. Any other discussions?
No, they're only going to have to close one lane.
They better be careful too. It's a little wiry down there, so. All right, so we are moving to authorize the Department of Parks and Recreation Blue Heron Golf Course to contract with David A. Bramble to pave a 6-foot cart path, $100,000 from the Department of Parks and Recreation Blue Heron Golf Course Capital Improvement Project 300090-9402-300011. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. You just get everything you want when you come in here, don't you?
Actually, I got one more thing.
Oh, man, I thought it was
Actually,
over.
item number 6.
Okay, out of order.
Was it a?
With our course or so.
Yeah, we can do that.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
want to look
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
item number 6 on page 45, we have a road access agreement for the Corsica River dredging placement site.
Oh, yeah.
I move to enter into a road access agreement with Lester Downs in order to access the Corsica River dredge materials placement site.
Thank you, Mr. Downs.
Second?
We have a motion and a second, and you worked him extremely hard because he agreed to this for $1.
One whole dollar.
So that is awesome that he was able to help us with this endeavor. So any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chanley. All right, very good. Okay, jumping back to item 5 on page 43, we have a request for economic development incentive funding disbursement of $50,000 to the 10Ek Brewing Company. And Jean is here, and representatives of 10Ek are here as well, if you have
I
any
move to
questions.
approve the disbursement of $50,000 of economic development incentive funding to Tenac Brewing Company for the purpose of purchasing and manufacturing equipment. The disbursement of funds is contingent upon a signed contract between the EDIF Commission and the company outlining the conditions of the agreement and performance of the project in accordance with the application submitted to the EDIF Commission.
Les.
Second. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Where's the project at this point? They had a groundbreaking already over the summer, right?
Correct. Tenac Brewing Company is in the process of constructing a facility on Grange Hall Road. It is a 49-seat tap room and manufacturing facility. It is expected to be open early spring, late mid-spring 2020.
Awesome.
And what are the projections for employment?
Projections for employment, the EDIF is requiring within 3 years to have 6 full-time employees and 4 full-time equivalent employees. So not only do we have manufacturing employment, we also have hospitality and tourism type employment. And these are two of our focuses for our Economic Development Incentive Fund, is manufacturing and hospitality and tourism.
So I gather this is a loan, not a grant, the term of which is what? And when I hear a phrase like the collateral will be the equipment, what does that mean? What does this?
Sure.
Please.
So the Economic Development Incentive Fund is structured such that it is a conditional loan predicated upon job creation. In this specific case, Tenek Brewing Company is going to be required to create jobs incrementally. The first year will be a certain number of jobs. They must hit that mark. Second year, third year requirements. If they do not meet their requirements for employment, then the loan would be repaid back. Should they meet their employment goals and remain in full operation in the county for 5 years, then the conditional loan reverts to a grant. And when I say that the collateral would be the equipment, should they fail to meet their employment goals, or should they fail to remain in operation for 5 years, then the equipment is used as collateral for the loan.
So,
And we go into the brewing business.
yeah.
In this specific case, the funding is going to be used for equipment such as a canning line and 2 fooders. And the fooders are a unique piece of equipment that allow the company to brew a distinct type of beer.
And so everything they do cans and kegs, is that what they're doing?
Cans, kegs, growlers, and tap.
All right. Do we have anybody here from Tenia?
We have Nikki Seener.
Thank you for coming out. Good luck to you.
Yeah.
Very good. Any other questions? What's the remaining balance in the fund, do you know?
Roughly, with this approval, we should have around 50,000.
50,000 left after this?
Yeah, I'll check with Jonathan on that, I'll verify that. But it's one other thing that talked about, I kind of run a return on investment calculator given to me from the Department of Commerce, and it's a $1.2 million project, and the expected return on investment from capital expenditures is $2.16 for every dollar that we invest.
Okay. Very good. Is that considered high, low, in the
Yes,
middle?
it's very good.
Very good. Okay, good. All right, so we are moving to approve the disbursement of $50,000 of Economic Development Incentive Fund to Tenek Brewing Company for the purpose of purchasing manufacturing equipment. The disbursement of funds is contingent upon a signed agreement between the EDIF Commission and the company outlining the conditions of the agreement and performance of the project in accordance with the application submitted to the EDIF Commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
One abstain.
One abstention. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gene. All right, Commissioners, the next 4 items begin with item 7 on page 51, and they are all for the Department of Emergency Services. So if Director Scott Haas could come up with his team. First one is FY 2020 self-contained breathing apparatus capital purchase. Scott, you want to bring up your team up?
Look who's here.
Evening. How's everybody?
Don't we have a birthday up here?
Yes, we do, matter of fact. Oh, shit.
So to
Nice
keep the
going.
jovial mood going,
Are you guys going to sing to her or just?
that probably will not happen, unless so ordered. 33, 30?
29. 29. Ask my kids.
Anniversary.
I move
Like
that
all
the-
your extremities, stick at 29.
I move that the Board of County Commissioners piggyback off the Montgomery County, Maryland Fire and Rescue Service and authorize the Director of the Department of Emergency Services to execute a contract with Municipal Emergency Services for $93,139.06 for self-contained breathing apparatus, harnesses, protective gear purchase.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion time.
So, for the TV viewing audience and some of the commissioners, explain exactly what this is and how it's used.
Chief Wheatley, this is Chief Wheatley's project, and he is here prepared to give you that.
So you had the pleasure of wearing one of these devices, I heard on Saturday. In fact, I got multiple pictures to remind you of how great they feel. But the bottom line is, when we enter hazardous materials, whether it is smoke conditions, sometimes we have to back up the volunteer fire departments with suppression. When we're involved in hazmat decon, there's a hazmat decon, we have to wear our SCBA, which is self-contained breathing apparatus. These harnesses are the part, not the bottle itself, but they provide the alarm system if one of us was to go down to help us be found. It also provides an electronic continuous reading in the mask, and I hope you got to experience that. That gives you your air reading, how much air is left, how much time you have left while you're breathing that air, as well as continuous temperatures that are being geared around you. Because if you're in a fire situation and temperatures start to rise, you obviously want to note that prior and be able to exit. So this is continuing technology, and every 10 to 15 years we have to replace these harnesses in order to stay current with the national standards. For what it's worth, mine said, I got it down to the point where it said you better leave the building because you're running out of air. And did you get to experience how the air got warmer with the heat? Yeah, everything got warm. Yeah. Everything got really warm. So it's unique, but it is one more guarantee that our staff go home safe at the end of the shift.
So what do we do with all the old equipment?
They are obsolete, believe it or not, after about 15 years.
So they just trash them?
They end up being recycled.
Really?
Yes,
Okay.
sir. As sad as that sounds.
So that's something we buy every 10 or 12 years? Is that?
10 to 15 years
Really?
with the harnesses. The bottles that go in them have to be tested, and they can only be tested like every 5 years, so they're spaced out, as you've seen in our capital budget, to replace so many bottles every year, so we don't get that big price all at once.
Okay. Very good.
So Scott, on the hazmat suits that we didn't have in this county, because we wound up buying them for
Kid Island Volunteer Fire Department's hazmat team.
So they have them,
They have the suits, they're in stock, and Todd is taking
and
care
you
of the
guys do
invoices.
too?
We do not do the level A entries, that is theirs. We do the decon, and sometimes in decon, depending on the element, we have to wear the SCBA due to off-gassing or possible splashing of the equipment to protect our lungs.
I understood part of that.
We have to protect our lungs. That's the bottom line. Every day we're learning something
You have
new that's
whatever you
destroying our
need.
lungs.
You have whatever you need.
Yes,
All right.
yes. With the approval of this, yes.
All right, any other questions? So we are moving that the Board of County Commissioners piggyback off the Montgomery County, Maryland Fire and Rescue Services and authorize the Director of the Department of Emergency Services to execute a contract with Municipal Emergency Services for $93,139.06 for the SCBA harness protective gear purchase. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Item 8 on page 53 is the cardiac AED program acquisition. Get a motion on that?
I move that the Board of County Commissioners authorize the Director of Department of Emergency Services to purchase 30, is it pronounced Physio? Physio Control, yes, sir. Physio Controls, Stryker, automated external defibrillators, and accessories under the State of Maryland contract pricing total $37,734.88.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I have a question. These AEDs are dispersed about the county in the county buildings. There's one downstairs in this building, correct? Yes, sir. Are county staff that work in an administrative position in the buildings across the county, are they trained in the usage of these AEDs? We are currently working on that. A big group of them were trained at the initial burst of these. We trained the Liberty staff the day that we did the Stop the Bleed here. We just finished Sanitary District Stop the Bleed, and they're bringing us back to do a CPR AED a day, and we are slowly getting everybody possible trained with the use of these. And it's basically 3 steps.
And the good news is, once you turn it on, there's a recording.
Tells you
It's all
exactly what to
automatic.
do.
It tells you exactly what to do. It's
So
a
it's-
no-brainer.
So it's lawyer proof. It is.
Fill-proof.
And paramedic proof.
And it falls under the Good Samaritan Protection Act as well.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioners, item number 9 on page 55 is the long-awaited Queen Anne's County Debris Management Plan Implementation, adoption.
I move to adopt the 2019 Queen Anne's County Debris Management Plan as an annex to the county's Emergency Operations Plan through Resolution 19-27.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Why don't we have a little discussion on what this is all about?
So we've got a quick PowerPoint to go over, which Eric is going to do. This was Eric's first project when he came on board with the department, and this also, we quickly learned how good Eric is at writing plans.
Very good.
He has done an excellent job with this plan. This dates back to when Todd was Director of Department of Public Works, but we'd like to thank the Department of Public Works, Park and Recreation, and Planning and Zoning. They're all three key departments that put a lot of input into this plan and spent a lot of time with Eric developing a plan. So I'm going to turn the PowerPoint over to you.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to talk a little bit about this plan, and just want to echo Director Haas's comments about all of the agencies that were involved. If you look at our second slide here, those same agencies listed, it truly has been a team effort. And the basis for all this is really to ensure contractor readiness, team member readiness in this process of managing and responding to a major debris generating event. There's a massive amount of paperwork and documentation required, environmental standards that have to be met, and of course our overall desire as a county and as an emergency services department to be proactive and not reactive in whatever case we can be. So as the slide indicates, we have both man-made and natural disasters that we need to be ready for. Clearly in the man-made situation, we hope we never have to deal with a terrorist event, a bombing, that sort of thing. And on the natural side, we have had experience with tornadoes and more protracted events like hurricanes. And Chief Morris will be talking a little bit about some of the man-made situations that we need to be ready for when we talk about Thyra next. The objectives of the plan really are threefold. We want to make sure that we have the correct structure and guidance in place to really have a good foundation on which to launch such a plan. This plan also covers and addresses the potential that the state would play, the federal government, and the state, of course, being our Maryland Emergency Management Agency, MEMA, as our liaison to FEMA. And as a result of doing all this correctly, we hope, and being proactive, that it would maximize our federal reimbursements through the public assistance programs. So, and again, that's why we mentioned the massive amount of documentation that's required. On the next slide, you see what are a ton of activities that are involved in debris management. And then the eye chart that you see on the right, really four key components there that are worth noting. On the left-hand side, you see what is a virtual debris management team that we recommend having. We looked at best practices across the nation, and I would say it's been 50-50 in terms of whether there's a physical debris management center where this team operates versus a virtual. In our case, as a smaller county where a lot of the same players that would be on the debris management team are much like those that would sit in our emergency operations center, we see those two functions operating in parallel. So those are two of the four that I mentioned. We, of course, have private agencies, private contractors, our utility companies, et cetera, that would be integrally part of our activities. And then, of course, as has been mentioned up in the top right-hand corner, Maryland Emergency Management Agency as our liaison to FEMA. One of the critical things that we wanted to accomplish, and we did this really with Parks and Recreation's feedback and assistance, was being proactive in establishing what are called TDSRs in the plan, or temporary debris staging and reduction sites. We wanted to let form follow function, build on a common operating picture, and so went with a South, Mid, and North County geographical arrangement that we could mirror based on other practices here in the county. So in a perfect world, if we have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds of debris, it's got to go somewhere. It's got to go somewhere to be reduced, staged, segregated, that sort of thing. And so we have pre-identified these sites. We have a lot of property, as you are aware, in the county, and within some of our major parks as lands, the undeveloped portion of those lands would be a prime location for these sites to be identified. And part of our next steps would be, if you approve the plan this evening, would be to work with Maryland Department of the Environment to actually have the pre-authorization to use these locations, so that what would typically happen is if we were to be hit by a hurricane, and other counties that have done this, they go ahead, if they know they're going to be hit hard, they activate their plan in the middle of the hurricane, and then if they have not pre-identified these sites, then they work with MDE kind of on a just-in-time basis. We would not have to do that if we could get the pre-approval. So you see those sites indicated.
So let me ask one question.
Yes, sir.
You use the phrase loosely, debris-generating events, which you imagine it to be obviously wind, but ice, what else?
Oh, that's a good question. I think a host of weather-related activities. So you mentioned wind and ice. We have nuisance flooding that may not be generated by a major hurricane event, but that could generate a significant amount of debris. So.
Flooding would too, yeah.
And Isabel generated a bunch of debris, if you recall, when we had the tide come up and pushed it all out. Yeah. So. Mm-hmm.
And I think you'll notice in our plan that we don't really establish a quantified threshold at which point we would activate this plan. So if you were to ask our public works folks, they practice debris management every day and do it well. And so whatever point in a situation that would emerge that we have maxed out the resources that we have organic to the county, this would be the plan that we would enact.
So, you know, there's one location in the southern area that you folks didn't consider. That was the Corcorino estate.
Oh, that's in the hidden slides.
Lined that up already.
He has a large front yard.
They already have the landing zone for the helicopter outside my front window.
I was going to thank you again for the use of that. Wait, the new guy's getting the helicopter use already?
There's a lot of traffic. I gotta get to it sometimes.
So as I indicated, we would be working with MEMA, Maryland Emergency Management Agency. Right now, we're very fortunate that an initiative that started close to 2 years ago, where several counties and working with Baltimore identified contracts that could be put in place on a tier 1 through 4 basis. As a result of all of their efforts, these contracts were executed, and MEMA was able to help push for all these contractors to allow all of the counties in Maryland to tag on to them. What we have been told is that if we had a major debris generating event like a hurricane, and we had other counties on the western shore that would be hit, not surprisingly, Queen Anne's would be secondary, tertiary, et cetera, priority. So it is important for us to have our own contractors, and if you will approve this plan this evening, then we would proceed with an RFP around the various requirements outlined in this plan to develop local contractors for removal and monitoring. We would then execute those local contracts, and then, as I indicated earlier, we would begin working with MDE on those TDSRs, and we'll add the Corcorino property to the list. So, any questions further? Thank you.
Good. All right.
Have these the debris removal contractors, the partners, have they been identified yet, or?
The tiers 1 through 4 that the state have, and we have their information, copies of their contract, statements of work.
Okay.
In terms of the local ones, we don't have a list yet of who would be responding. We would have that as a result of the RFP.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All right, seeing none, we are moving to adopt the 2019 Queen Anne's County Debris Management Plan as an annex to the County Emergency Operations Plan through Resolution 19-27. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved. Thank you.
All right.
Now the
Thank
next.
you, Commissioners. Item 10 on page 64 is the 2019 Threat Hazard Identification Risk Assessment Plan. Annex, I should say.
I move to adopt the 2019 Threat Hazard Identification Risk Assessment as an appendix to the 2019 Queen Anne's County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan through Resolution 19-45.
Second.
So, Commissioners, we've also developed a quick PowerPoint for this, which Lori is going to go over with you. Lori, if you want to take it away.
All right. So if you remember, we were here back in May of this year to discuss the hazard mitigation plan. This is simply an extension of that plan to include an annex. That plan, in addition to this annex, has been approved by the state and the federal government. and is now coming to you for approval. If you remember, the hazardous mitigation plan identified a lot of the natural hazards that we have within the county. The FIRA takes it one step further to identify the man-made threats that we have within the county. So we worked with all of our county partners. We came up with 6 identified threats, to include transportation, which was the congestion and accidents, terrorism, active assailant, cyber attacks, hazmat, and the opioid crisis. And all of those are included in this plan. So essentially what this plan does, it takes a team of experts throughout the county and the state, sits everybody in the same room and asks them 5 basic questions. And it's essentially, what do we have and what do we need and what do we need to get there? Then this plan goes through and identifies the personal protective equipment, the equipment that we need to do the job, planning and organization, and then any training exercises that we need to perform. And then it also gives us a guide for any grant programs that are available to reach or to fill those gaps. So once this plan is approved, if you choose to do it this evening, we will then meet on an annual basis when we discuss our hazardous mitigation plan and meet with all of our state and county partners to look through this plan and update it on an annual or biannual basis. That's it.
That's it. I just want to also recognize Commissioner Moran sat on this group and
Yes,
sat through several meetings as we went through the THIRA, and we appreciate your attendance and enthusiasm during the process.
And that goes for all of our county and state partners, MDTA, State Police, Sheriff's Office, a lot of our agencies sat on this work group.
Any further discussion? All righty, so we're moving to adopt the 2019 Threat Hazard Identification Risk Assessment as an appendix to the 2019 Queen Anne's County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan through Resolution 19-45. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Thank
Thank
you.
First, thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you, Scott. Scott, Lori, and Eric, thank you all.
Thank you.
Well done. All right, Commissioners, the next several items we have are budget amendments, and I think Director of Finance and Budget is John Seaman is here. So first one is on page 11, or excuse me, item 11 on page 74. And this is a budget amendment for the Riverside mold remediation project that was approved earlier.
I move to approve budget amendment CC6 for Riverside remediation project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item 12 is budget amendment CC8 on page 75 for the airport projects.
I move to approve budget amendment CC8 for the airport capital project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for CC-8. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Thank you, Commissioners. Item 13 on page 76 is budget amendment CC10 to recognize some revenue for community partnerships for children for their Governor's Office for Children to accurately reflect expenses on their resource development program. That makes sense. This is no additional county funds are required on this budget amendment.
I move to approve budget amendment CC10 for community partnerships RDEF program.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
Okay, item 14 is budget amendment CC11, also for community partnerships for training and the Challenge Day event for held at the Queen Anne's County Public Schools.
I move to approve budget amendment CC-11 for the community partnership admin.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
And our last item is item 15, budget amendment CC29. This is the budget amendment for the end of the year, fiscal 19 budget year, providing for overall general fund and debt service adjustments across all the departments.
I move to approve budget amendment CC29 for general fund debt service.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Jonathan, I only have one question. The total on this is, it says increase, $7.2 million. Is it actually an increase, or is it an increase to 7.2 million from where it started? This isn't $7.2 million above last year's budget.
It is an increase by taking the surplus from FY19 and transferring it to the capital budget, so that's considered an expenditure. We have to budget for that.
Okay, I understand. Bada bing. Okay. All right, no other discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. That moves us to the presentations portion of the meeting. First up, we have Dr. Ciatola, our health officer, for his update. Dr. C, good to see you.
Good evening.
Evening.
And I'm sure you've all had time to read the year-end update, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
That's tab number 6, item I.
But realistically,
books.
the Health Department for 2019 is sailing along very smoothly. A lot of new initiatives. We have a community wellness living healthy program that we're doing with 2 of our community nurses, with a nutritionist specifically looking at hypertension, hyperlipidemia, and diabetes. And the Mobile Integrated Health Community Program has been progressing very well, our so-called MIC team. And the Maryland Rural Health Association awarded the Mobile Integrated Community Health Program the Rural Program of the Year for the state of Maryland. And that was recently awarded at their yearly meeting at the National Harbor. As far as our addictions program and our peer program, the peers have been responding to our opioid overdoses in the emergency room, and we've been very pleased with the response that has occurred as far as getting patients into inpatient treatment, with the response from the peers to the emergency room, both in Easton, Queen Anne ER, and Chestertown. The other encouraging sign is that our overdose numbers, and I hate to say this, and I know we have at least a month and a half to go, but we're sitting at 62 overdoses and 10 deaths this year so far. Compared to the number that we had last year, we've seen a significant reduction, and hopefully that will continue. As far as our WIC program is concerned, in conjunction with the state and the United States Department of Ag, we are going to pilot a mobile active WIC van for Queen Anne County and for the state of Maryland. The application is in for the funding from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. We have money in the WIC program. The vehicle itself will probably be about $145,000. And we're going to resource this out to Optech, which is in Stevensville in the business park.
Tech Ops,
rather.
right.
To go ahead and fit the van out. And this will allow the WIC program to actually make home visits for the newborns, the mothers, and the small children to help in both food, healthy choices, breastfeeding, so that this really improves the overall outcome for these infants and newborns. Whereas before, they would have to probably come to the health department or one of our community outreach. This way, with the home program, they don't have to worry about transportation. And as you know, non-emergency medical transportation is always an issue in rural communities. We've been very active with our non-emergency Medicaid transportation for both dialysis patients, those patients on methadone, and it's been a very active year for us. And one encouraging note that we just heard last week, Blue Cross Blue Shield, as you know, had given us a $400,000 grant for the Mobile Integrated Health Program for telemedicine. They asked us, and that grant expired in July of this year. They asked us to reapply. Well, we got the news on Thursday that we didn't get everything we wanted for Christmas, but we got $275,000 for 2 years, and they asked us to come back because we're starting an initiative with Mobile Integrated Health as well as with Shore Regional and UMS Corporate with the CTO or primary care practices, in which we're going to try and negotiate a relationship with the CTOs for the primary care practices here in Queen Anne County that are both through Anne Arundel Medical and Shore Regional Health to do home visits linking their patients to a diabetic reduction program in the state. And I'm presenting tomorrow at MIMS for a change in the protocol for Mobile Integrated Health, where we will be able to also monitor the A1C levels on these diabetics to be able to show a significant improvement in their overall diabetic outcome. And the other focus will be on pre-diabetes. So encouraging things are happening and continue to happen with the health department in Queen Anne County. Questions?
Mr. Wilson?
Sir, as I spoke to you this morning, we note that there were 10 deaths from drug overdoses in the last year. Nationally, the figure on deaths from alcohol are 3 times as high, and from cigarettes like 10 times as high. We're working very hard on opioids. Do the schools do much in terms of counseling on smoking? And because, I mean, in fact, that's statistically a bigger issue.
Well, I think I couldn't agree with you more. I think that we have a significant issue not only with alcohol, but with vaping and the effects of vaping as well as cigarette smoking. I think there have been concerted efforts in the school regarding vaping and reduction in smoking. However, I feel as a community, that's one of the issues that we are approaching and addressing with our addictions program. The focus has been fentanyl and heroin, but we do have a significant amount of addiction to alcohol in this community. And it's not only the deaths from alcohol, such as the cirrhosis and suicide associated with medication and depression with the alcohol, but also you have to look at our motor vehicle collisions. How many are caused by impaired driving from alcohol or substance use disorder? So I agree with you, Commissioner, that this is an issue that we need to be able to aggressively go after, and we're trying to do that with as much community outreach as we can through our addiction program. And our peers have also responded to alcohol overdoses that have been delivered to the emergency room. So we're not limiting them to just opioids or substance use, but we consider alcohol as a substance use disorder.
You're doing terrific. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? To the doc?
Excellent.
Thanks.
And I would like to thank the commissioners for the continued support for the Health Department and the Department of Emergency Services.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say real quick.
Absolutely.
For the folks that are going to watch this later on TV, it was a very informative presentation. But I think what the most important thing is that our citizens need to take away from this is that we have Dr. Ciatola as our medical director here in Queen Anne County. And the gentleman reinvents the wheel every time he takes on a project. And we can't be more fortunate. And I'm sure there's medical directors across the state that are good, but they're not as good as ours. So Dr. C, thank you very much for everything you do.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you, sir.
Thank you, Doc. All right, well done. All right, Commissioners, tab 6, item 2 is our small business proclamation, and Ashley Chenault here is here this evening, and Jean's going to come up too, Jean Paving, Economic Development Manager. Oh, we have a few others. Come on up. All right.
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity to tell you about Small Business Saturday. This is an annual tradition that we celebrate here in Queen Anne County. A little history, it began in 2010 by the American Express Company, a credit card company, in partnership with the National Trust for Historic Preservation as a means to help small businesses in historic downtowns sustain themselves. And fast forward to today, 2019, it is a nationwide event that we celebrate each year, this year being on November 30th. What is a small business? By definition, it's any company that employs 500 employees or less. That means every business in Queen Anne's County qualifies as a small business. The average business size in the county is about 15 to 20 employees. 70% of all employers in Queen Anne's County are small businesses, according to the Small Business Administration. And 67 cents out of each dollar spent at a local small business stays within the community. And that's why it's so important for us tonight to emphasize to our residents the importance of buying local and shopping small this season. Queen Anne's County, we celebrate shop small, buy local each year by holding events in historic Stevensville and Centerville. And Carol and Ashley are going to tell you a little bit about that tonight. As well as we've introduced a new event this year called the Mistletoe Marketplace, which Ashley's going to share more information with you about that.
Good evening. We are excited to announce that our department is working with the Queenstown Premium Outlets to hold a mistletoe market, 10 days of holiday gifting. So from Thanksgiving until the Saturday after Christmas, we'll be occupying a empty storefront within the outlets and inviting businesses to come in and lease the space within it. So right now we have about 14 local businesses and artisans that will be occupying the space and selling their product. It comes at a high holiday gifting time, so we're excited about that. And also the businesses have expressed their gratitude during our challenging traffic time that we're having on the island, that they'll be able to occupy that space. So some of the businesses I wanted to share with you are Blackwater Distilling, Murdoch's Florist, Island Yacht Canvas, Ken Island Jewelry, Jules at the Bay, and the Grooming Pet Place Shop, as well as other vendors and artisans. I'll refer to Carol at this time that would like to share information that she has on Centerville and what they're doing to promote small business on Small Business Saturday.
Well, the first thing I'd like to do is introduce some of my businesses. So do you want to step forward? And we lost one. Eric didn't want to stick around, so I was going to keep him as a twofer, but I couldn't talk him into it. So we have Val Colby and Rick Colby from Commerce Street Creamery Cafe Bistro. And our newest business person here is Paige Tillman, who you may have noticed her small gift shop, Earl's Cove Trading Company.
And I'd like to introduce Nikki Seiner of 10Ek Brewing Company.
And we also
There
have we also have Nancy Cook, who's a partner to tourism. She's the chair of the historic Stevensville Arts and Entertainment District.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to pass this around because it's easier for you to take. So this is at the printer right now, but our downtown businesses got together to put together a very creative small business Saturday event. It's called Barksgiving. So it is a pet-friendly event. It's going to feature the Passport, which has various specials that our businesses will have available, and shoppers will navigate the town through this, and they'll get validated. They'll turn this in, and we're going to pick two gift baskets valued at $400. And the other part of this is we're also providing the first 300 shoppers with Centerville bucks. We want all of our businesses to benefit, so we're going to give them a little bit of seed money to spend throughout the holidays. It'll expire at the end of the year. And we'll also have a ugly sweater contest for dogs and their owners, and that's being presented by the Animal Welfare League of Queen Anne's County, who's working with us on that, and dog agility demonstrations, how to present your dog at a dog show, and also a demonstration on service dogs. So we're trying to mix it up a little bit, make it interesting. People come in with their animals and also spend their money in Centerville.
Very good. So I have a proclamation here for Small Business Saturday in Queen Anne's County, Maryland, Proclamation 19-51. Whereas Queen Anne's County celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, There are currently 30.2 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of all businesses with employees in the United States, are responsible for 65.9% of new jobs created from 2000 to 2017. And whereas small businesses employ 47.5% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, and whereas 94% of consumers in the United States value the contribution small businesses make in their community, and whereas 96% of consumers who plan to shop on Small Business Saturday said the day inspires them to go to small, independently owned retailers or restaurants that they have not been to before or would not have otherwise tried. Whereas 92% of companies planning promotions on Small Business Saturday said the day helps their business stand out during the busy holiday shopping season. And whereas 59% of small businesses owners said Small Businesses Saturday contributes significantly to the holiday sales each year. And whereas Queen Anne's County supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday, now therefore we, the County Commissioners of Queen Anne's County, do hereby proclaim November 30th, 2019 as Small Business Saturday and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Signed, the Queen Anne's County Commissioners. So I'm going to let you have that one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Here we go.
And
Very
I did
good.
want
Yes.
to share one additional thing with you, and this is hot off the press. So last week I attended a Maryland Travel and Tourism Summit, which is an industry-wide summit where the Maryland Office of Tourism and local tourism offices come together to learn about tourism, celebrate tourism, and there's also an award ceremony component. So we are the 2019 recipients of the Market Expansion Award. We won this award for a project that I worked on with Stories of the Chesapeake Heritage Area with our neighbors Talbot County, Kent, and Caroline. And so we created a cookbook, which I do have a copy for each of you today.
Awesome.
It has a heritage story and a recipe from a local partner and restaurant within the area. And so it's on sale now, but I have a copy for each of you.
And that was a national award?
Statewide.
Statewide,
Yes.
very good.
Maryland.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Very
Great
good.
job.
So, are we allowed to talk anything about that event that's coming to Centerville? Or are we going to wait on that?
We can. I have Joan here as well.
Just a brief teaser maybe for the next, because you said you're coming next meeting or the meeting after to talk about it. So I don't want to, let it all out there, but I think that's.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, yeah. Turn your TVs off. You don't want to hear
So
this.
our plan is to come before you next meeting to discuss the Balloon Festival. So we're working with a company called Friendship Balloon Company they do an event in Talbot County at the Triple Creek Winery. They want to bring this event also to Queen Anne's County. So we're looking at a couple of locations. We're meeting with the event organizer next week, 2 locations, North County primarily. And we'll have more information for you at the next meeting.
Outstanding. Very
We
good.
thought we were not balloon friendly in this county.
Yeah.
See?
That's right. Balloon friendly.
Balloon
We'll see
friendly,
what
that's right.
happens.
Are there cooking lessons that come with this?
No, but that's something
She
that I
says-
could arrange
she-
for you.
She gave you a no. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you all.
We get balloon rides? Wow.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioners, our next presentation and the main event is
The main
Director
event.
Kathy Willis, Community Services Director, and Mike Clark, our Family Services, Community Services Chief. So they're here to
Good evening.
presentation for you here.
Mike and I are here to give you our update for the Department of Community Services, and I will thank him for our short and sweet presentation that he has prepared, because many times we come up here and we talk about statistics, we talk about money and what I need or what we've applied for and received and we're approving. It's always about numbers, it seems like. So tonight we wanted to take a different perspective, and we're looking at how we help our citizens throughout the lifespan. So a little bit about us to start out. You know the Department of Community Services involves 3 divisions, one of which is the Area Agency on Aging. That involves senior centers, community care, and transportation. The housing has homeless assistance and prevention, housing liability, livability and rehabilitation, and affordable and workforce housing. And then we have the local management board. So one of the things is the programs that we work with are throughout all the ages, and none of the situations are ever alike. Whether we're looking at activities for children, insurance concerns for seniors, or any adult or any younger person dealing with insurance companies for their benefits. Feeling connected. Obviously, transportation needs are a huge aspect across all of our lifespan as well as our agencies. You heard Dr. Ciatola mention earlier about his medical assistance transport, which does a lot of dialysis. Well, we do the opposite end of the non-medical assistance transport for dialysis and have been doing so for many years, as well as other public transportation and regular door-to-door service, and also homelessness and housing. A few examples, if you wanted to touch on those real quick.
Sure. We thought we wanted to. The Department of Community Services covers a lot of areas. It covers a large span from birth till the end. So we just thought it'd be a good idea to pull out three ideas, 3 examples of something that we might go on in a regular day. And we wanted to cover it. So in 3 areas that we do as solutions, because we cover, we see ourselves as a solution to a lot of issues that arise. The first thing we do, or we discuss, is responding to pressing issues with excellent outcomes. So we're going to show you an example with our homeless prevention services of how we actually are measuring and having some very positive outcomes with that through a new model we're doing. We're going to talk to you about our support and how it spans many generations. We have what Kathy's going to talk about, a story that goes way back many years and covers a family of 3, maybe 4 generations. And lastly, we're going to talk about a capital investment that you authorized for our department that is really paid off the very first day we purchased it.
Thank you, Mike.
Sure.
The first example I'm going to give you, these young ladies are from the Hines family, and we call this full circle. 24 years ago, I met these young ladies' grandparents through the Department of Aging. The grandmother was utilizing dialysis transport 3 times a week. These young ladies lived with her along with their mother, who was also receiving home dialysis and often had to be taken on transport for other medical necessities. These young ladies were 13 and 15 respectively at that time when I met them. I was getting phone calls from Stevensville Middle School that the girls were missing school because the family would keep them home to help take care of the mother and the grandmother. This is a common theme, and when families are extended and want to remain at home caring for their loved one, this is what they do. The grandmother was a quadriplegic who required full care. We stepped in with the transportation services and also a senior care program, and as a very new social worker, I took over their case 24 years ago and started to work with them to make sure that they had the services they needed for the grandparents, the ill mother, and for these children to be in school and become successful adults. Full circle comes to the next slide. These young ladies just purchased a home through the moderately priced dwelling units program with Mike. They stayed connected with us all of these years. They have remained in their grandparents' house, which at this point, many years later, needed a lot of work done, and they wanted a new home, a place for them to raise their children, and these young ladies have done it beautifully. They were raised in caregiving situations. They learned how to care for people. They have worked since the day they could, earned their money, taken care of their family members, and now are raising their children. Many of these girls and their children have been through the school systems and been touched by character counts and all of the programs that Queen Anne's County provides. We are extremely proud that this particular family has come full circle and been able to provide not only for their family members, but for themselves now. It's a huge success, and it shows you not just a statistic or a number, or it just shows you the real feel behind what we do every day, because a lot of services in the county, in the community, in the state are public services. You see them on the road, you see them day to day, you read about them. You don't read about these situations. We have to get permission to do this. There's a confidentiality and HIPAA rules that we have to follow to protect these folks. But I think one of the main things to understand is that through our department, through multiple facets of our department, we help this family become successful. And they are very pleased with where they are, and they're very thankful for the services that the county has provided. So we just wanted to highlight them. They had hoped to be here tonight, but they were unable to. But they are very appreciative, and we are very happy with the success that the housing program has offered to them to live a successful future life. And if I could just add one little tiny piece, these young ladies are so talented that we refer them out. Even aside from their jobs, there's one young lady who still does private care sitting, who I had help with my father during his last few months of his life, because that's what kind of quality this family comes from and has been taught, and they are able to give back to the community. So we're very appreciative of them.
Awesome. So then if we move into the next part of our presentation, responding to and presenting issues with excellent outcomes. 4 years ago, if you'd asked Mike, if you'd have told me, Mike, you're going to put a spotlight on a homeless support program, I'd have said, you're crazy. I want to look good for the commissioners. I'm not going to put a program like that out in front of them and do it. Well, I'm here to tell you that this year we have got a program that is showing results. It's our rapid rehousing model, and it's really starting to show it. The way we measure if we're showing results and if people are better off is how much are we doing. So through this new model, we've seen 17 families made up of 54 individuals, and then currently, in the current fiscal year, we've seen 8 families and 17 individuals. That's through about 4 months, so that's about a third of the year. So if it stays on track, we'll see about 24 families and 57 individuals. And those are literally homeless families. It's not our folks that we prevent from being homeless that are about to be evicted or something like that. We have programs for them too, but this is the literally homeless folks that are either in the homeless shelter or living in their car or living out on the streets. And those are the folks we've been working with. So the good news is, so how are we doing it when we work with them with this new rapid rehousing model? So that's the next one. And after about a month through this new model, we're able to get about 23% of them in a solid, stable house or home. By the second month, we've got another 16% for a total of 39%. By the third month, we have about 75% of them in a home. And then by about the fourth month, we're up around 88%, approaching 90% of our families are in homes. The next question, so where are they going? So we have a full-time caseworker that's working with them, it's Cindy Boone, and she works with them differently. In the rapid rehousing model, it used to be, before the rapid rehousing model, we just provided a check and they went in, came out. And oftentimes, if you try to get someone long housing, you'd want to get them off drugs first, you want to get them a job first, you want to do all these other things first, and it kind of makes sense. But the rapid rehousing turns it on the head and says, get them a house, and then work on the other stuff while they're housed. And that model has been shown to be working both nationally, and now it's shown to be working here in Queen Anne's. Where they're going is, which is good, 59% of our families are able to find their houses and homes in Queen Anne's County through many different arrangements. That is good because oftentimes you have children and families that are set in their schools. And it's very traumatic for a child not only to be not in a home, but to have to leave their school. So if we can keep them in the county close to the school they're going, that's excellent. It's not easy here because the stock is a little bit lower, although it's increasing. It's a little lower than other counties and it's expensive. But through shared housing arrangements, some of the new apartments that are being built, et cetera, we're able to work through that. Secondly, on the list, we move folks to Caroline County, third, Dorchester County, and then you can see that we do Talbot and Kent, and even the state of Delaware if there's houses available or homes available. One of the agreements we have through the Queen Anne's County Center for the Arts is that upon finding a home, all of our clients are eligible to an original piece of artwork provided by them. So it's just kind of neat to see, again, the human side of, you got a house, you got all the stress, but, beauty is always welcome no matter what situation you're in. And, you think that they wouldn't care much about it, everything folks have been through, and they're just ecstatic to receive this art while they're doing it. So that's just a neat piece. So the last part we do when we measure any one of our programs is anybody better off? So every year, and I'll get to the kind of part here in a second. Every year, we do a customer satisfaction survey in the Division of Housing, and one of the questions we ask or we measure is the percent of respondents who agreed that the DHCS programs helped them establish a stable housing situation or prevent eviction from their current residence. So we did that every year. 2017, I had a lot of staff vacancies, so we didn't have time to do it. We were just keeping our head above water, keeping the program going. But you can see that 2018 was when we started the new rapid rehousing model. And if you can see that dramatic increase in the fact that 89% of them agreed with that statement that said that we were able to help them with a housing situation or prevent eviction in the current residence. Because we're providing additional support, more intense support, direct support. We're also working with landlords more directly. And the funding is longer, but it also allows in connecting them to helping them get job resources, helping them to get furniture in some cases, and coordinating with other services in the community. So I would say thanks to staff, thanks to a lot of the landlords, a lot of the folks that provide service providers in the community, thanks to you, and thanks to the Department of Community Services, I believe our citizens are truly better off because of the work we're doing, and this area shows it. And the last area in regards to ensuring your capital investment pays off, I'll let Kathy talk to that.
This one's titled The Pickup Truck, because just over about a month ago, I came in and asked for what I had scheduled in the capital budget to purchase a vehicle for county staff. Typically, I'm purchasing a car or a minivan or something like that we would use, whether it's be to deliver meals or to do client visits and take clients places, do things like that. This year I came in with a little different twist and decided to ask for a regular pickup truck. Many, many years ago, I had a wonderful hand-me-down from Todd's department back at DPW when he was there. And we found we used it quite often. And now that vehicle is retired, we kept having needs, and I kept seeing Mike come into work with his dad's truck. I'm like, why do you always have your dad's truck? Because he's moving somebody today. Because when you look at these stories, the families, these folks are homeless, literally homeless. So we're going to places like Haven Ministries to get furniture for them, to help them set up, move them in physically. So the day I went to DPW to pick up this truck, it was October 4th, I get it, and as I come back, we're going to take it somewhere. Another staff was going to take it to a meeting or somewhere, and I see Mike's dad's truck. And I'm like, are you moving somebody? Guess what? I have new keys here. So, liability-wise and things like this, we needed this vehicle to serve the purpose that it's serving. And I want you to know that your staff, from any ladder of that staff, is doing these actual services. And we've been doing them for years, and nothing's going to stop us. And that's part of the value. That's the main value of the Department of Community Services, is when it comes down to it, we're gonna jump in and do what we have to do.
You'd have a truck, but Chamley took them all.
That's a hard thing to go up against parks, Parks are beautiful, and that's the point. You don't see what we do. So I wanted to show you what we do. It's also in light of, I'm assuming you have a proclamation for me? For National Caregivers Month.
We do have one.
And, one of the things, this is National Family Caregivers Month. All of these examples, whether it be the family or the staff or the community, whoever stepped up and helped, it's all about caring for families and trying to maintain them in their own homes, get people homes that they didn't have so that they can find valuable work and be successful in their life. So it is spanning through the entire ages, and we're very pleased and just want to recognize these efforts that our staff have been making for years that a lot of people don't see. So in light of Family Caregivers Month, we're very grateful to be here and thankful that you help in our funding and provide the services that we do every day, because one day all of us might need them. So.
Well, I have the proclamation and the privilege to read it. Proclamation, National Family Caregivers Month. Whereas over 90 million Americans today are family caregivers for their loved ones, and whereas a large number of them are finding themselves working to share in the care decisions that affect the health and well-being of their loved ones. And whereas, although caregiving can be a rewarding experience, it is not without its consequences, such as stress, poor health, and caregivers burnout. And whereas 6 out of 10 family caregivers juggle everyday life tasks, such as preparing the children for school, managing household responsibilities, and working full or part-time jobs. In addition, as a vital member of the care team, they have the responsibility of advocating for the loved ones and making decisions that lead to best care outcomes. Whether it be for the senior with Alzheimer's or the child with special needs, the required attention can be nonstop. And whereas caregivers affect the whole family, family time and meal time are extremely important in the caregiving setting. Ensuring that the caregiver and family members get the proper nutrition is important for maintaining strength, energy, stamina, and a positive attitude. And whereas making time for yourself and the family protects a family caregiver's own health, strengthens the family's relationship, prevents burnout, and can enable a care recipient to stay at home up to 3 times longer. The chance to take a breather or re-energize is vital in order to be as good as a caregiver tomorrow as you were today. And whereas the responsibility of family caregivers in our country is growing every year, it's even more essential to encourage these heroes to take some time for respite so they may continue their mission of providing that loving care they only can provide. Now, therefore, we, the County Commissioners of Queen Anne's County, do hereby recognize November 2019 as the National Family Caregivers Month in the state of Maryland and encourage all citizens to join us in these important observances. And it's obviously signed by the County Commissioners. So great work.
Thank you.
And your presentation, very clever.
Thank you very much.
I would just like to say that, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for what you two do for this county. It warms the soul. It really does. And God bless you. I mean, it's hard work, and believe me, and sometimes it can be thankless, but when you, like you said, you find them, put them in a house, and
that's worth it.
It is, and that's what's so great about Queen Anne's County. And you two, definitely shine. You're that shiny nickel in the drawer. So thank you.
And they do so much with the core group. It's
right.
Really, the county gets tremendous value out of it.
So when Kathy comes and asks for something, just remember that.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
both.
Excellent.
Okay, Commissioners, that's all the presentations we have for this evening. We have one legislative item. We want to turn to tab number 7. We have County Ordinance 1918, revisions to Chapter 22 of the Code of Public Local Laws of Queen Anne's County, Parks and Recreation. This is a bill for introduction.
I'll introduce it.
So be it.
Any questions or comment?
No, just we're
that's
just
all.
introducing it,
Yeah,
right?
okay, yeah, that's all we need. All right.
This is just an update, right? This is an update on our.
This is an ordinance to get him a new truck every month.
This is an ordinance for a new truck once a month with a plan of parts.
Automatically.
No, there was a strike through that one. No, I clearly saw a strike through there.
Okay, we can move on to press and public comments. If there's anybody left that wants to make any comments.
Does anybody want to speak? Remember, you want to speak again? No? Okay, good. So I'm going to save you from having to say that. We'll go right to round table.
Round table.
And who wants to start? Let's
That's
see.
me.
Mr. Wilson.
Yes, sir. Look, I want to remark on something. It's a statistical marvel. Are you ready? Here we are running 4,000 transports a year, probably 10,000 sheriff operations. God knows what goes on in public works. And in years, we haven't had one bad screw up. Unbelievable.
Yes, sir.
Good staff. I mean, how can you do 4,000 anything and not have something blow up?
Just ask the U.S. Postal Service, they can tell you.
You know, I mean, it's just astonishing. So, well done, staff, really.
Yes, indeed. I agree. Commissioner Dumino.
Ooh, you guys will suffer by comparison. Maybe you should have me go last.
No.
Okay.
Fire away, my man.
So Mr. Wheatley had mentioned an experience I had this Saturday, and if we're Facebook friends, you guys got to see bits and pieces of that. But I can tell you that it was the most amazing experience of this controlled burn that we had in this home at Barclay. I had the opportunity to get fitted with some turnout gear at the Churchill Fire Department and participate in this controlled burn. And I will tell you that they dotted their I's and crossed their T's. The firefighters that were there were 30, 35, 40-year career guys that have been doing this a long time. There was about 7 different fire departments that had shown up. There was a combination of a total of 10 crews. And basically what you had is you had a farmhouse in Barclay that had 5 bedrooms in it, first floor and second floor. And what they did is they ignited pallets and hay to simulate a house fire dedicated to a particular room. I had the opportunity to put on the self-contained breathing apparatus, or air packs they call them, and I went into the controlled burn. Very smoky, hard to see. In fact, you had to get on your hands and knees just so you could see where you were going. And sit in the corner of the room and watch these stokers. That's the job title given to the firemen that were literally lighting these fires in these bedrooms. And the smoke suddenly goes away as the heat builds up in the room. And literally there were flames up the wall and over the ceiling. And you look up and the room is engulfed in flames. And you're thinking, this is crazy. Why am I here? And then the crews come in, and literally with a 3-second water blast, it's done and it's out. So I had the opportunity to rotate into 3 different bedrooms and watch 4 crews come up and do this. I did suck 30 pounds of air, or 30-minute tank of air out. It was just to see them perform what they do. We just, we go, that's great. This is wonderful. You guys do what you do. But to actually get in there and see and heat, it was hot. I mean, obviously with the fire, it was hot, but it was a great experience. One that they have encouraged me to come back and share with my fellow commissioners the opportunity for future burns to take advantage of it and do it like I did. And it was just a whole new appreciation for what these guys and gals do. It was amazing. The other thing was that I attended a legit 36th annual legit annual meeting at the Naval Academy Stadium, where there were some excellence in government certification classes that I took. But it just so happened that same day that Queen Anne's County Human Resources Office received an award from Legit for our claims history. So kudos to our HR department and the proactive approach that they take to work safety to ensure that that we receive that award. And then also attended the Goodwill Fire Company's open house, where I had the opportunity to read a proclamation that honored 4 generations of the Turner family here in Centerville and their connection with the Centerville or Goodwill Volunteer Firehouse. So I had a busy couple weeks.
There you go. There you go.
That makes up for the meetings that I say I got nothing.
There you go. You found it. Okay. Chris?
Well, actually, Phil, thanks for sharing that. That's I was hoping to make it. I couldn't make it to that event, but I hope the next control burn, because that is probably a remarkable thing to get to experience.
Amazing.
Really cool. So as Commissioner Moran stated earlier, it appears that the bridge repairs seem to be going at a good clip, but one of the trade-offs is they are keeping that lane closed through Thanksgiving. So as a public service announcement to everybody, if you think traffic's been bad on other days, just imagine Thanksgiving traffic, the busiest travel holiday season. make your plans accordingly so you don't get stuck in that traffic. Expect, I would think, traffic worse than we've ever seen.
Correct.
So get out there. If you're traveling, leave early, stay later. Get your turkey and your stuffing so you're not running to the store on Wednesday trying to get things. It's going to be bad. If you got family coming to town, encourage them to come earlier. Rent some movies, stay in, and try not to brave the traffic. That said, we're also approaching very busy holiday shopping season. Don't forget your small businesses here in the county, in particular those on Kent Island that have been impacted by the traffic. Their sales are down. They need you to come out and support them. So go out this weekend, go out after Thanksgiving, and give them some business that they sorely need. And lastly, thank you to all of our veterans. Yesterday was Veterans Day. I got to spend it yesterday with my 94-year-old grandfather, who was a Navy vet from the Korean War, and we brought all my kids up to see him in New Hampshire. So don't forget the veterans that fought for us, and a lot of them are much older now, and they love to see kids. So go visit them.
Very good.
That's it.
Well, I'm going to be short and sweet. I had a lot of things happen in the last 3 weeks, and Mike, I don't know if you can zoom in on that. Can you get that? Yeah, that's my brand new granddaughter, Ella James, and Mom and Dad are doing fine. I just want to give a shout out to baby Ella and her mother, Ashley, my daughter. Love you guys, and congratulations to you and Casey, and hopefully they'll be able to get over for Thanksgiving. So that's.
You live close by. I can come over if they can't.
There you go. All right, it's all. Well, we're going to need somebody on that bar, right? So it's all good. All right. Well, that's all I got. So I'll take a motion to adjourn. One more, Mr. Wilson. Yes, sir.
Why don't you want to do this one?
No, go ahead.
Yeah. One thing we could do, we're going to have a jam probably Sunday night of Thanksgiving, and we don't want to abuse it, but if we wanted to create an emergency, we can block 18. Do we want to discuss doing that?
Block 18 down by the outlets?
You heard it.
Oh, you mean?
Yeah.
That crossover.
You mean just a crossover or all of 18?
Whatever we need to do, sir. I'm not willing to do this on an everyday basis, but this was the big day that we were going to get relief. We're not getting it. It may amount to what amounts to an emergency. I want to know if the group feeling about whether we want to respond, because given this much lead, we can get the personnel out and at least cone off a couple of those things. Might be a good idea, but I think that's something for this group to discuss.
I would think at the very least, Commissioner, that we should request that the state close that crossover at the Queenstown outlets there, and the access to 18.
Well, anyway,
at the very least.
Maybe that's something that the staff and you guys ought to work with and make this.
Because it's which one of those days, or all of those days.
Well, exactly. I don't want to overuse it.
Because it's going to be Tuesday through Sunday.
Yeah, but we can't do that.
I understand that. That's what I'm saying. So you have to.
Why don't you discuss with Todd and.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can say that the local district engineer has been talking about closing that permanently, the one at 18 at the outlet center. So they're investigating that now. So I would think certainly they would close that off for that week if we would ask them to do that.
I'm fine with that. Yep.
Okay.
Definitely. Right. I would definitely have them do that. So
that gives us a little relief, maybe.
Yep. Okay.
Any other announcements? Christmas Eve.
What?
Christmas.
Not going to get away from that, am I? Do we need to vote, or are we just going to announce?
However you like.
Okay, so since I'm not.
Let's make a motion.
No, I just put on.
What Todd said.
It's. I guess we'll just. This is our own little first verse of SantaCon. We all got our little Santa hats on, and we are going to close down the county offices and government Christmas Eve, so all our employees will have Christmas Eve and Christmas Day off. So, excuse me?
Even though.
Yeah, even though Todd didn't want to do it, but, we convinced him that
he strongly encouraged that we reconsider.
Right,
strongly.
He did his best to talk us out of it, but
He'll be here. Still, he said.
I'll be here. That's right.
Some of us care about the staff.
That's right. Yeah, some of us
don't.
Right, Margie?
Right.
Okay, there you go. So that means I don't have to go to the employee morale meeting, right? I'm good, right?
Yes, no, you still have-
You're off the hook.
No, you still have-
On behalf of all the employees, thank you very much, and I'll be here slaving away on Christmas Eve for the county.
Make sure the fires are still lit.
Make
There
sure
you
the
go.
fires are lit. That's right.
All right, so we got nothing else. Motion adjourned?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Good job.